Hello, friends around the world. Julie here. I am on our second day morning safari in Kruger National Park in South Africa. While on our safari this morning, I realized that Kruger is very dry and many of the trees have lost their leaves. It was apparent that Kruger is in need of rain, and I learned from the safari guide that this is the driest that Kruger has been in many years. Regardless of the drought, the animals live on and find ways to survive. Today's drive reminds me of the book of Ezekiel in chapter 37, where it talks about the valley of the dry bones. In chapter 37, God sent Ezekiel a vision that Israel would be restored under Jesus. This was very difficult prophecy for Ezekiel to believe, since Israel was in a very bad state at that time. To combat his doubt, God gave Ezekiel the vision of the valley of the dry bones. God sent Ezekiel a vision of being in a valley full of dry old bones. God directs Ezekiel to speak to the dry bones and tell them that God would make breath enter the dry bones and bring them back to life, just like he did in the creation of man. Ezekiel obeyed God, and the bones came together. Flesh then developed, skin covered the flesh, breath entered the bodies, and they all stood up, making numbers representing an army's worth. The reviving of the dry bones signified God's plan for Israel's future restoration. The vision, most importantly, showed that Israel's restoration relied solely on God's power and not the circumstances of the people. Shortly after, I was informed of the severe drought that Kruger was facing. It started to rain, and heavily. The intensity of the rain was extreme, to the point that large puddles started forming, the roads became flooded, and the barren streams started to fill. It was the much-needed rain that the plants and animals were waiting for. This goes to show that God always delivers and can revive the most dire or hopeless-looking situations. My prayer for you is to remember the story of Ezekiel and that God's power and love can revive hopeless situations in your life, no matter how hopeless you may feel or defeated you may think you are.
Thank you and have an amazing day. Allow God to let it pour blessings all over your life of restoration.